This is the Ecommerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Ecommerce Braintrust podcast. I'm Ross Walker, the Director of Retail Media here at Acadia. I'm joined by my co-host and Retail Roundup compatriot, Armin. Hello, great to meet you. We're sitting in for our usual hosts, Julie and Jordan. We've got a really special episode today. We're recapping a lot of the trends, data, and I'm hoping a ton of hot takes from this past week's Prime Big Deal Days. I call it Fall Prime Day, and don't try and argue with me on that point. We're recording this episode on Friday the 10th, 48 hours after Prime Day has ended. Some of the data has not fully settled yet, but we still have a lot to say. Joining me today, we have four brilliant folks to help us understand what happened. On the operations and organic side, we have Gavin and Michael from our account management team. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
First-time joiners, great to have you here. You guys excited?
Very excited. Also nervous, but super excited to hear about everyone's perspective from Prime Day.
Awesome. And on the media side, we have Spencer and Carlos. Hello, guys.
Hey there.
Hello.
Great. So yeah, with that being said, the data is still settling, but that's never stopped us from having a hot take or two here today. And just to introduce you to an idea, we have something we call the hypometer or hypometer. If something is like very hype, really good, that's a 10 out of 10 on the hypometer. If it's not very hype at all, it's a 0. So we may be asking you for some hypometer input later today. Before we get into the meat, does anybody, particularly our US-based guests, did you buy anything exciting for Prime Day?
So funny enough, I was scrolling LinkedIn on the days of Prime, and I saw a post from Acadia CEO Jared Belsky, and I saw that he was an author. I didn't even realize that he wrote 2 books. So I was like, hey, I'm going to go over to Amazon and see if that's available. Sure enough, it was. And it did not have any Prime Day badging. So no deal discounts. I might have to say in BFCM, we could implement a couple strategies, but I did buy the book and that was my one purchase. So I'm looking forward to reading that.
Which one did you get?
It's the Great Client Partner.
Yeah, required reading, shameless plug, but it actually is a fantastic.
Absolutely.
Cool.
I wanted to buy a Kindle device, but it was not on sale. Amazon is cheap this year, it seems. They were trying to sell the Scribe more. So I guess, kind of another version of it where you can write on the screen as well. But yeah, just overkill for me, so I passed.
I bought a bunch of toys for my kids. Just
Same here. My new parent for the last year. And so this is my first Prime Day with an actual toddler. And so we had a lot of toys that I bought, and also my wife also purchased. So that was a fun surprise the last day or two of like, where are all these extra toys coming from?
Are you using the same account, Michael?
Separate accounts, actually.
Separate accounts. Yeah, that's the problem. Cool. So yeah, we'll get into the data and performance in a second. But first, I'd love to hear your perspective on why Amazon dialed back from a 4-day event in July to a 2-day event in October. Of course, except you lived in Canada, where Full Prime Day is still happening. It's day 4. Any ideas?
I mean, I think Amazon just keeps getting longer with these events. BFCM 12-day, July Prime 4-day. But ultimately, I think mainly 2 factors is one, buyer fatigue. We just had a big event in July. We're asking a lot of the consumer to do another 4-day event right next to a 12-day BFCM event. And then also just logistically, it's very difficult for one, Amazon FCs, and then 2, the brands to send all that inventory in such a tight window, while also having Amazon's capacity to fulfill everything that comes in. But then also what was interesting on day of, we saw cash back offers for like longer delivery. So if a customer goes into checkout, Amazon will offer a 6% cash back if they elect to delay the delivery time. And in July, we saw that around 6% cash back. And then in October, we saw 8%. So it definitely seems like they're saying, hey, our warehouses are almost full or at capacity. Let's dial back consumer kind of demand in 1-day, 2-day shipping windows. So that's something else we saw.
I have to agree with Gavin. I think also with just this year, profitability is top of mind for a lot of brands. And so with them doing a 4-day Prime event, and then I think Amazon reduced because they want to encourage brands to participate for the full 12 days. They do give the option of one or the other, but you don't get a PED badging for just the T5. And I think they're trying to be flexible with brands. Also, not to mention that we're getting massive increased storage for inventory this month as well. So I think it's Amazon's way of trying to be flexible with the brands and being like, if we reduce it to 2 days, then you're more wanting to do the full 12 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the end of the day, it's Amazon, right? Like they're always testing things. So yeah.
Very interesting to see the move from 4 to 2 and keep 4 in some locations and not others. I don't know if that's data backed or not, but seems like a bit of an arbitrary decision. I'm really curious to hear how, if you have a read yet on how this event stacks up against previous fall Prime days. We've had a few. I remember the first one and thinking that like not knowing what it would be like, and now for many of our brands, it's like actually the better event, better than summer. How do you see this as like a second tier tentpole event? I'm really curious from a brand participation standpoint, but then also in terms of customer demand, what you guys have seen for this fall versus previous ones.
Yeah, so from my side, and based on the early data, I mean, of course, we still have some vendor accounts, for example, that don't have the day 2 data. I have seen like really great performance overall. Most of the accounts have a positive growth. But it's true that I think it's still not in the same position as July Prime Day. I think July Prime Day is a bigger event, and we see that normally July Prime Day is bigger than the one in October. But overall, I think I see a really good result overall in the accounts. It's true that in terms of efficiency, it was a bit slower than what we expect because of the CPCs, the competition. But I think overall, it was a good event.
Okay, great.
What we saw year over year from October Prime 2024 to 2025 is the share of sales for day 1 and day 2 were pretty much identical. 2024 was 51% day 1 and then 49% day 2. And then this year, pretty much the same, 52 and 48 respectively. But overall, in our portfolio, from year over year perspective in net sales, they were up 72%, speaking to the size of the event, the growth that's available. And then we did do like a small study on the hypergrowth brands, which was really interesting to dig into. And the characteristics of these brands were full participation in best deals or PEDs both days. 73% sent off Amazon traffic, which is becoming a much, much bigger factor. When CPCs are increasing, brands have increased exposure on unbranded campaigns to CPCs if they're not seeing a lot of organic lift. So that definitely helped. And then another part was deal depth, around 20 to 25%. That's kind of the bare minimum to compete on the day. But overall, definitely a huge event for the brands that crush, and saw some interesting themes.
That's really interesting. So do you recommend the hypergrowth brand playbook for all brands, or would you say it's not the best fit?
That's the thing. It's a lot of the profitability is the main factor for clients that I speak to. And with deal depth being at 20 to 25%, with an influencer campaign being at X dollars, maybe tens of thousands, and with the on Amazon ads, it's dependent on kind of their tacos target or overall ad spend on the day of, which is the driving factor. But ultimately, I always think that there's 3 days of the year that you should really spend off Amazon to drive traffic to it. And that's July Prime, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, October Prime. And those are really, in my opinion, no-brainers to send off Amazon traffic.
That's really interesting.
To add on, I feel like a huge percentage of your success during these Amazon tentpole events is done the other 360 days of the year, just with the massive brand building, creating your off Amazon advertising channels, just so that when the time comes, you can light the beacons and who your customers are. They know how to get in contact with you. I feel like a lot of clients, they really want Amazon to be incremental. And on these tentpole events, it really is incremental because like there are just Amazon shoppers. I'm one of them, right? So just really focusing on building your brand outside of those events is just reaps huge rewards on Prime Day.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was actually going to say almost exactly the same thing about off Amazon traffic with media. So love that. Quick aside, Armin, what is the beacon in the Lord of the Rings that we would be lighting in this frame of reference?
Yeah, so I feel like if I'm comparing to last year's Fall Prime Day, I didn't see a lot of differences. Like especially, I tend to look at like what promos did we do last time and what we did this year, and then also percentage discounts. It's like Prime exclusive discounts is our go-to promo type for most of the brands. And then as Gavin said, like around 20%, if you have better margins, like then some brands go up with steeper discounts. But that was more or less it. What I did see as a difference potentially is brands were more selective with what they actually promoted.
Yeah.
And that kind of signals that like profitability conscience where, okay, like maybe not everything in my catalog is actually well positioned to be discounted. So there was this like kind of margin analysis that was done by brands and also from our recommendation because tariffs and all the changes in the Amazon ecosystem this year have impacted some of the decisions there.
Great.
So moving on to our next question, we all know how Amazon can just make our lives miserable with last minute like product and promo suspensions. But given the number of years Amazon has run this event and the fact that it was just a 2-day event, so demand should be fairly predictable. Did we see any glitches, any unexpected platform behavior, or was it smooth sailing?
One thing that I experienced this Prime Day that I actually haven't experienced in previous Prime Days is, so leading out of summer and into fall, one of my main accounts was seeing a huge increase in resellers. And because of that, it really impacted like our feature price offering. And so for our hero products, we noticed on day one, product A lost PED badging. And on day two, product B lost PED badging. And when we looked more into it, we realized during the event, Amazon was updating and refreshing and being like, actually, your 20% that you originally uploaded that was approved, eligible, no issues, is now ineligible. And now you need to increase it to this percentage. Because of that, because of the being in the live event, we did abide and we did increase up the percentage to get the PED badging because that alternative was faster than quickly running it into a coupon, adjusting those, waiting the 6 hours for a coupon to go live. And so that was definitely something that was new to me, at least, is Amazon removing offerings during the event and saying, hey, actually, you need to increase your percentage this way.
Another thing I saw in the business reports, I don't know if you guys saw this, but in the business reports, there's a banner on the top of it that said data might be delayed. So bear with us. We'll have this solved in 24 hours. So there's really no telling if sales were accurate hour by hour, but it's interesting because usually the ads console is delayed. Since if the ads console is delayed, you're like, oh, you're not spending. Let's bump that up. So I'd be curious to see if that actually impacted the day of, but that's really the only big glitch I saw.
Gone are the days of like full access to the ad console blocked or like absolutely zero attribution at all for the entire event. I remember one Black Friday where there was like actually zero reported spend for like the entire day and everyone was freaking out.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we just to hark back to when we did a Preparing for Prime Day podcast a few months ago, we talked a lot about the fact that this is a year when widespread use of AMC, not just for analysis, but for audience building, would allow for a lot of unlocks during the lead-in, during the day of, and for lead-out strategies. So I've got a bunch of tactics that I love here, but Spencer and Carlos, is there anything that you feel like continues to pay dividends or something new that you tested out this event when it comes to AMC audiences or analysis?
Yeah, from my side, something that I have implemented in most of the accounts is using AMC audiences, the ones that are pre-built from Amazon, just to refine the audiences that we are targeting. And then from the non-branded side, for like campaigns that are targeting main generic keywords or our main competitor ASINs. There's one that is called high interest audiences based on shopper behavior. So that one is one that I have been using for the non-branded campaigns.
Yep.
And then for the branded campaigns, you can use another audience that is based on add to cart or click already in your products. So that way you can refine the audiences there and go for people that are already show interest in buying your product. So that's the one that
I like using the add to cart audience for my non-branded campaigns too, because that's the subset of people that have added to your cart but are still browsing. And so like if we can stop them from browsing and make our buy, I want to do that.
Yeah, I think the bread and butter AMC campaigns, like high likelihood to purchase all those, we should be running those like before, during, and after, right? Some ones I really like is lookalike audiences for customers that converted from competitor targets, because these are the types of people that are willing to change, right? They're in the market and they're changing. This other audience is useful all year, but particularly during Prime Day, your halo purchasers. So like if customers buy product B after they buy product A, make sure you're targeting them during Prime Day because they might be looking for something else, but they have product A. It's like, hey, remember us? So whether or not you're layering these onto PPC campaigns for bid adjustments or hitting them with sponsored display, it's like very evergreen and they just kind of work all the time.
Can I double click on that one? When you say you're looking at a lookalike audience for people that have bought competitors, do you put like a basket of competitors in there? So like someone who's bought from multiple different brands, give me the lookalike that subset of people. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because when you get too granular with it, the audience isn't big enough. And then you're targeting like the 12 people, But so, yeah, huge fan of lookalike audiences in general. It's just a huge unlock.
Great.
Yeah, so Gavin, Michael, question for you. So outside of the paid media side of the business, were there any things that felt different about this year versus prior full Prime days? Any changes to maybe inventory or primary merchandising tactics? Or we just learned that, everything from July event basically applied here as well?
Yeah, you mentioned about profitability and being more selective. And I think that was really more top of mind and a lot more of like the topics of conversations I'm having with clients, because we had the impact of tariffs in Q1 and Q2. October's increase in storage fees. And overall, with the extended events and, we're seeing increase in CPCs, and we know that the platform itself is getting a lot more competitive. It's causing, a little bit more hit to margin. And so we definitely this year have been a lot more selective on where do we want to prioritize our PEDs versus an item that has a higher conversion that we know is going to do really well. Do we want to maybe more focus on coupon strategy, right? And more focusing on not just top line revenue from the event, but also looking at ways to optimize bottom line. So it just really made us be a lot more selective on where we want to actually push the PED versus just using a coupon as an alternative strategy.
And adding on to that, the new deal structure of best deals is a huge impact on bottom line. It's now $1,000 to run a best deal just for those 2 days. So let's say you have a PDP of products that might not be your hero, and running that, if you're at a 10% margin, you'll need $10,000 of sales to make up for that best deal. So that's a lot of the strategy we were kind of picking and choosing with our clients. And then another thing I found was inventory capacity limits from July and now. In July, right when July hit, our capacities got slashed. And then this year, or this time around in October, capacity didn't really change. It actually went up in a lot of cases. And I think that speaks to Q4 coming around the corner. Mm-hmm. Brands are building up inventory stores. So that kind of makes sense. But ultimately, I think it was mainly in profitability, like Michael was touching on, and then just inventory changes on the back end.
Well, one thing that I noticed, and folks flagged it in Slack as well, was just how Amazon was inconsistent this year with actually applying the last 30 days lowest price, where you would still, some brands got away with getting the badge, even though the pricing they were offering was not an actual deal compared to what they offered 30 days back. So, we don't know how they did it, but some of them, managed.
Yeah, I actually saw that as well. And I saw a slight nuance in the price they're discounting off of. So some were on typical price, which is like average price in the last 30 days. And then some were on list price, which is the verified list price of the product, maybe from a different marketplace or from where they were priced previously. So I think there is a little bit of kind of behind the scenes there. Ultimately, we do think it's a bit of a black box because some brands it works, some brands it doesn't. So would love to get their algorithm on that, but I know they hold that pretty close to their chest.
I'm really interested in this subject, and I would love to get like a hypometer reading from you, like 10 on like the hypometer of increasing the best deal cost, because there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of economic theory at play. Like you make a good more expensive, and so you refine the number of people who are willing to do it, which makes it more valuable for that smaller group. So, did you find that for the brands that ran best deals that they had better performance, and and then the brands that didn't run them like did worse? I'm just curious to know how you hype up this increase of the deal cost.
My hypometer reading would be an 8 or 9, really. Because if you're looking at a product with a best deal with badging compared to one without, it's kind of table stakes, in my opinion, on Prime days. So that's definitely a big, I'd say big hype.
Yeah.
Yeah, my stance is like, I don't have the data, Ross, sorry, but what I could say is that customers are not that well educated on what they are actually looking at. They just see the badges and there's a deal and there's a discount. So it's like, when you search for a product, it's actually going to be like, where can I save the most kind of thing. And for us, potentially, we could analyze, from the back end what actually drove more conversion. But from a customer perspective, I think they don't really look at that as much.
I think from the brand side, like my brands, I remember this time last year, a lot of them were complaining about how they didn't get good visibility. They didn't do nearly as well as they expected because the marketplace for promos had become so diluted. Everyone was running a best deal. And I don't hear that at all now. And all those brands had really, really good summer and fall Prime days. So like where you're able to bet, it seems to have like cleaned it up a lot. And there's a lot of value that accrues to being able to make those bets. I'm surprised that it's not higher. I bet it'll be more expensive in the future. So I'm the same. I'm like a 10 out of 10 on the hypometer for the new deal costs. I think it's been a net benefit. All right. Last thing I wanted to ask, we're now through the fall Prime Day and we're thinking about the lead out. So is there anything that you see as absolutely necessary to be doing when you're having your conversations with your brands? What are you talking about in the lead out and heading into the new holiday season?
At least for my brands, like the number one lead out strategy we've been really implementing a lot of is brand tailored promotions, like especially targeting cart abandoners. And one audiences that I've been really using a lot of is promising, because these audiences have higher purchase value. They purchased from your brand before and spent good money. It's a really good way of retargeting, not just a public promotion, it's only to those select audiences. So for brands who want to be competitive, but they don't really want to extend promotions, brand tailored promotions are a really good substitution because you're only really retargeting that. And especially now that AMC is being applied to most seller accounts and with the different audience bid modifiers, like I'm super interested to see like having more ad effort behind that promotion will have it be exposed a lot more. So I'm really interested to see like how that will shift in performance with more ad effort paired with brand tailored promotions.
Yeah, this is the season for retargeting right now. So basically, not just your like cart abandoners or your detailed page views that didn't convert, but you're lapsing previous customers as well. People might not be buying right after Prime, but their eyes are still there and they know the holidays are coming up. So basically just staying top of mind, as low as CPCs as you can, but staying top of mind between now and Black Friday is huge.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight, and something we hyped up a lot in the lead in to Summer Prime Day was to use AMC audiences to retarget viewers of your like upper funnel display campaigns with sponsored ads. So like if someone saw a DSP campaign, online video or streaming TV, or even just a regular awareness campaign, like let's bid more for them while they're then searching. So you can actually like accrue a clear value to like the awareness efforts that you do. And like, for just to give an example, one of my brands, one of their top performing campaigns, like non-branded campaign for this fall Prime Day event was not like retargeting, but it was using an AMC audience to bid higher on viewers of a previous streaming TV campaign. And it just really, really outperformed expectations. So yeah, not just retargeting like your customers, but also your upper funnel as well, I think is a really good idea.
Yeah, it kind of feeds into the off Amazon advertising narrative, right? Where your reviews might be a little worse, but they're familiar with you, and that goes really far. So, yeah.
Cool. Well, everyone, appreciate your time. And it's been fun hearing all your insights and hot takes and getting some hypometer readings. Good luck preparing for the holiday rush ahead.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.